Hi again, and welcome to another devlog. I'm going to talk today about my continuing journey with constructing walls. I never knew it was going to be this long. Right, okay, so let's begin. So, what am I constructing? Well, we've got these old things that are called pillboxes in the UK, and they are sort of armoured, basically walled area where you would have soldiers protecting a particular area. And this is a diagram here of what's called, I think it's type 24 pillbox. And they are, they have an irregular hexagon. So it's got 6 sides, but they're not all the same length. And I've had to draw it on this piece of graph paper, is virtual graph paper here, because it's quite tricky to work out all the various angles that I need. But here we are. Here's my sort of rough map. So what I've done in Unity is I have created a script object, scriptable object. And this is just called structure. And this means that with this little thing here, it allows me to create new ones. So if we go in, so if you look at building structure, come back into Unity, I can go assets, create, buildings, new structure. So I've created this one down here to represent this type 24 pillbox. So if we come back in here and come back to Studio. So it's of type structure wall. Let's go and have a look at one of those. And okay, it's got a name. This is quite important that the name is the first field, and I'll show you why. And it's got some stuff about exactly the dimensions of the wall and the kind of wall that I want. So I've created one of those. Here's one I created earlier. And you can see here we've got our structure and we've got 6 of them. So let's just collapse these. And each one of these represents one of the lines we saw on that graph. Now, the thing about the name here, wall name, is this replaces the element. So if I just get rid of this, so normally for an array, you'd see kind of element 0. But because it's using the first stringed field here, it replaces the name. So that's quite cute. That means I can see in my structure, I've got front, left, back. I can see all of these really easily, really clearly. So that's quite a useful little tip. Okay, so let's get on to the meat of this thing. The problem I've got in creating this is what I want is for Unity to take this first wall, create it for a length of 4.9, and take the second wall and rotate it around some angle. Now, if you remember, we look at go back to the graph here, we can see that we've got to go along the 4.9 and then rotate it around 102 degrees. Now this 102 degrees is an inner angle. And what's going to happen is a bit like, so the old sort of turtle programming, we're going to start from here and we're going to move forward 4.9, but then we need to get it to turn left through the 102 degrees. But because it's facing forward here, then the actual angle is coming off this trajectory here and then moving along this arc. So actually the angle that you want here is 180 minus 102. So if we come back to Unity, we can see here that that's why this angle is 78. So the idea is that you've got to move around the angle, not the inner angle. So it takes a little bit of calculation to work that out. Anyway, so if we run this up, let's see what happens. So it's coming along this wall, created that wall, turn left, created that one, turn left again, created that, create that, create that. So there we are. This is our kind of bricked version of this type 24 pillbox, the skeleton of the pillbox. So that's actually quite good. Any other thing to draw your attention to, as you might obviously see here, is where the bricks overlay like that. Now, in reality, they often did do this. because they were just being lazy, because it's just an outer skin, doesn't have to look pretty. But I might use some more tricks, some more prefabs for the structure to get this working more prettier. Now, okay, so we've generated this, and you can see it's generated a script, and that's great. But as you notice, when I press play there, when I stop it, there's nothing in the scene. And going forward, I don't really want to be generating, programmatically generating these structures. But the nice thing about Unity is if I run this again, so we're now out of the editor mode and we're into kind of a play mode. Now, normally you can't make changes to data. Oh, you can't make changes to property in the tree. You can make changes to scriptable objects, actually, which is another interesting bonus for those. But this structure here is actually this container here, so you can see the walls inside there. What I can do is I can take that wall container and I can drag it into my prefabs. So that means when I press play and go away again, I can put this back into my scene. There we go. No need to generate it using the scripts. So therefore, I've got a script that generates walls, which I can then just put as a prefab and then use it wherever I want. So I can play around with the editor using the different wall lengths, different angles and stuff, and create lots of different variants and lots of different prefabs based on that. Otherwise, I'd have to come in here and play around with the angles and try and get the right vectors, and it's just a nightmare to try and align that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's quite useful. What else? So there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. Yeah, on the way of doing the turtling, when you move and then you turn left, there's obviously lots of ways of doing it. The way I chose to do it is if I just delete this, I'll show you again. Actually, I can show you on here. I don't need to do it because it's in the prefab. So what I've done is this front left wall, which is along here. It's hard to tell. Okay, so this is a front left wall. And then when you get to the final brick and the front left wall, somewhere down here, all the way over here, what you want to do is the next wall we want to create, because we're doing this kind of turtling mechanism, we want to start here. We don't want to start back at where the container starts. Now what I've chosen to do is the next wall, this one here, I've made it a child of the container. Then I put the bricks inside of that. That way I can put this container and I can just simply put the position, the local position where that last brick was, and start moving from there. So that way we can keep all the kind of relative local positions as it goes around. And in fact, you'll see that this right wall contains all the others. And then it's this kind of nested thing going on. So the next one here contains everyone, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's a little tour of what I've been up to, generating this wall, more walls. And yeah, the next stage is to see how hard or easy it will be to put things like windows into this. So even though I put a lot of effort into this, I'm still not 100% sure this is the way to go. But yeah, doing the windows and doors, that's going to be an interesting next phase. Okay, well, thanks for listening.